He was 48 hours away from losing everything. His companies, his fortune, his legacy, and almost nobody knew it was happening. This is the story of the single most terrifying weekend in Elon Musk's life and the insane chain of events that nearly wiped out the richest man on Earth. Let's go back. 2008, the world is falling apart. The financial crisis has just hit. Banks are collapsing. People are losing homes. The economy is on fire. And in the middle of all that chaos, Elon Musk is sitting in his office with 2 companies on life support and almost zero money left in his bank account. Now, here's what most people don't know at this point. Elon Musk was not the legend. He was not the untouchable billionaire. He was a guy who had burned through his entire fortune from selling PayPal, roughly $180 million, trying to build rockets and electric cars. 2 industries that, at the time, most serious people thought were insane. Tesla, burning cash faster than it could raise it. SpaceX had just failed 3 rocket launches in a row. 3 in a row, each one exploding before it ever reached space. And here's where it gets really scary. If SpaceX failed one more launch, that was it. The company was dead. Done. Elon had already said it publicly. There was no money for a 5th attempt. The 4th launch was the last shot. At the same time, Tesla was weeks away from missing payroll, not losing profit. Missing payroll, as in the employees who showed up every day building cars they believed in were about to get checks that bounced. Imagine building a dream and then telling your team, "Sorry, I can't pay you this Friday." That was the reality. Now let's talk about how it got this bad, because this didn't happen overnight. Elon had poured his own money into both companies like a man who genuinely believed he could will them into existence. He wasn't just an investor sitting behind a desk. He was in the trenches. He was sleeping on the factory floor. He was taking calls at 2 a.m. with engineers trying to figure out why a rocket engine kept failing. But passion doesn't pay bills. And by mid-2008, the bills were catastrophic. Tesla had a luxury electric car, the Roadster, that was delayed, over budget, and facing a production nightmare. The car cost more to build than they were selling it for. Every car they shipped was actually losing them money. That's not a business. That's a countdown timer. SpaceX wasn't much better. Each rocket launch cost tens of millions of dollars, and 3 of them had just disappeared in a fireball. The team was exhausted. Morale was cracking. Some engineers were quietly updating their resumes. But here's the thing about Elon Musk that you have to understand to really feel the weight of this moment. He doesn't quit, not because he's not scared, but because in his mind, quitting is simply not a variable he allows himself to compute. He told his team something that became legendary in Silicon Valley. He said, "I will spend my last dollar on these companies, and then I will borrow money from friends to pay rent." He meant it. So what happened next? September 28, 2008. The 4th SpaceX launch. This was it. The whole company watching. Engineers who hadn't slept in days. Families who had followed Elon into the desert to work on something they believed in. The rocket lit. It climbed. It kept climbing. And for the first time in the SpaceX history, it didn't explode. The Falcon 1 became the first privately built liquid-fueled rocket to reach orbit. The room erupted. People were crying. Grown engineers, people who had dedicated years of their lives to this moment, were sobbing on the floor. But the crisis wasn't over, because Tesla was still bleeding. Here's where it gets even more dramatic. Elon had quietly been borrowing money, not from banks, from friends, personal loans from people like Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, who believed enough in Elon to write personal checks when nobody else would. But even that wasn't going to be enough. Tesla needed a full investment round, and it needed it fast. Not in weeks, in days. They were looking at missing payroll before Christmas, and not by a little, by a lot. The deal was being negotiated right up until the last possible hour. And we're not talking about a dramatic movie scene where someone slides a contract across the table and everyone smiles. We're talking about Elon Musk on Christmas Eve, 2008, closing a $40 million investment round for Tesla at literally the last moment before the company would have had to shut its doors. Christmas Eve, the wire transfer came through and Tesla survived by hours. Now pause and think about that for a second. The man who is today worth hundreds of billions of dollars, who owns Tesla, SpaceX, and X, who is arguably the most powerful private citizen on the planet, was sitting on Christmas Eve in 2008, wondering if he would still have a company when the sun came up. That's not a metaphor. That's what happened. But here's the part of the story that almost nobody talks about. During that same weekend, Elon gave an interview. And in that interview, he was asked how he was doing, and he broke down crying publicly. This man who had survived multiple rocket explosions and a collapsing car company sat in front of a camera and cried. Not because he was weak, but because he was human. He had gone through a divorce. He was being publicly mocked by the press. Bloggers were writing obituaries for his companies, and he was watching the last of his money disappear in real time, knowing that if the next few days didn't go right, everything he had built, everything he had sacrificed, his marriage, his health, his peace of mind, would be gone. And still, he kept going. That moment, that weekend, is the reason SpaceX exists today, the reason Tesla exists today, the reason electric cars are mainstream, the reason private rockets launch humans into space. It all came down to one terrifying weekend where everything almost ended. Because here's the uncomfortable truth that this story teaches you. The people who change the world are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who fall and keep moving while they're still on the ground. Elon Musk didn't win because he was smarter than everyone. He won because he refused to stop when any reasonable person would have, when his money was gone, when his companies were dying, when the press was laughing, when he was crying on camera. He was already planning the next move, and the next move changed everything. So the next time someone tells you your idea is too risky, too ambitious, or too crazy, remember the guy who was broke, alone, and crying on Christmas Eve 2008, and then went on to build the most valuable car company in the world.